Welcome back to This Takes the Cake. We're super excited and honored to have David Berke from eWed Insurance. We are actually here in New York City, and we're excited to have you on our podcast and talk about things that take the cake.
Thank you.
I guess we'll start with how we got connected and how our partnership and relationship all evolved and how you found S&B.
That is a great starting question. I know the answer to that because you just showed me an email 2 minutes ago to remind me, which was very helpful. So right. I guess this was back in 2020. Yep. We had started a reach out to wedding planners across the United States to say, hey, with COVID going on, maybe insurance is on your radar screen and would love to introduce you to eWed. And I think I made a phone call.
Yeah, you made a phone call. It was very personable. I felt like you had your stuff together, and I was like, we'll give it a shot. And I always say if you don't have insurance, you need it, and when you have it, you don't ever need it. But it's just one of those things. And I'm a really firm believer in insurance. I always explain to my clients that you're not going to go to the dealership, buy a brand new SUV and leave without insurance, So,
that's true. People buy homes, they buy cars with insurance, and then they spend $20, $30, $40, $50, $100,000 on a wedding, right? And don't necessarily think about it. And insurance, it's an interesting product. It's the one thing you buy and hope you never have to use.
Right. And a lot of people, when I tell them, they're like, there's wedding insurance. I'm like, yeah, it's a thing. People, they don't realize that a wedding is an investment, So.
Correct. And things do go wrong.
So, David, once you called us and you told us all about the wedding insurance that you offered, I was like, I would love to incorporate this into our packages. So it protects the client, protects us, you're getting business, it's a one big happy medium with everything. So we actually put in our full planning with our stunning and brilliant clients that if they book full planning, they get, obviously, your insurance for up to $50,000. And then depending on the venues and things, a lot of them require the liability insurance. So we reach back out to you to get that policy too. So we've really embedded eWed, into S&B's planning packages, which is awesome. So we're just going to kind of dive into wedding insurance because a lot of people are like, what do you mean I have wedding insurance? What does it cover? How does that work? So I guess we'll start with how did you get in the wedding insurance world?
that goes back a little bit. I want to comment first, just for a second, on the fact that you embed insurance into your packages.
Yes.
You are absolutely leading the group by that, and you're ahead of the pack. But we are seeing more and more venues and more planners require wedding insurance from their couples, and they build it in as part of their package price. And it's really a smart thing to do because if nothing goes wrong, they never see the price. If something goes wrong and you bought wedding insurance for them, you've now saved their day.
Right.
You've made a huge impact in their life because they're not going to lose money.
Yeah.
So I think you asked, how did I get involved in this? And that was, it's been a long road. No road is necessarily perfectly straight.
Right.
But I was a wedding planner for 27 years.
Right.
And I got approached probably about 8 years ago by someone that brought to my attention event and wedding insurance. And I thought that was just a brilliant idea. I said, you know what? And we did very high-end weddings. And I used to say, if you're writing $1 million check for a wedding and something goes wrong, you can write another $1 million check.
That's true.
If you're spending $30,000 on your daughter's wedding and you've saved for the last 10 years or
for the wedding, yeah.
For that wedding, you don't have another $30,000. And that's where cancellation insurance really comes into play. And so I got introduced to this. I was doing wedding planning for a number of years. And I said, you know what? Time for a pivot in my life.
Right.
I need something new. I wanted to challenge myself. And I saw a need for it in the marketplace. And knowing nothing about it, I just jumped in. I taught myself everything there is to know about insurance and went from there.
Well, you knew why they needed the insurance because I'm sure you'd already seen all the things that could go wrong.
Correct.
So you knew the importance of it. So, like, the process of starting it, do you have to have a license to be an insurer, or how does...
Starting it was really sort of unique. I went out there, and first thing I did is I looked at who the competitors were, and I literally read their insurance policies to see what was covered. And I said, you know what? They cover it from the perspective of an insurance company, not from the perspective of a wedding planner or a bride and groom and what can actually go wrong.
Right.
And at that point, I started talking to insurance companies and saying, this is something I want to do. And I had credibility from being a planner. I had credibility because I'm an attorney also. So I was able to talk the talk with them. Took me 2 years to get an insurance company to say yes, or sorry, to get the right insurance company to say yes, to say, David, we want to back this program and we understand what you're trying to do and you're really trying to not reinvent the market, but you're trying to provide a product that the market really needs. A couple years later, we ended up launching eWed, got an okay, did a bootstrap job on launching the website and just how do we get this up and running? I got my insurance license because that was something that was required. But it was a matter of just building it in common sense and, what would we need, what would someone need? And we would build that, and it turns out that I think we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, no, you've done awesome. So we're going to dive into what insurance covers. So let's talk about cancellations first with cancellation insurance. What all does that cover?
Okay, I'm going to try to say this a little slower because it's a question I get all the time,
every day,
and I have a pat answer on the phone.
Right.
So when someone calls me and says, "What does cancellation insurance cover?" What I tell them is it can reimburse you for lost deposits, and deposit is a generic for money spent. If you have to cancel or postpone your wedding, or if you have an issue with a vendor no-show or vendor bankruptcy.
Right.
The thing to remember is it's not canceled for any reason insurance. It's got to be generally something outside of the
cold feet.
Right, cold feet is not covered. Exactly. It's got to be something outside of the bride and groom's control. So it's fires, floods, accidents, illness, severe weather, injuries.
Hurricanes.
Exactly. Things like that. So it's basically, if something goes wrong, you can be covered. The example I use most often, and I think it's a great example, and it was a real-life example, is we had a wedding where the groom was out riding his bike the day before the wedding.
Okay, like bicycle?
Bicycle. Okay. Got into a bicycle accident and broke his ankle. Not the end of the world, but it is the end of the world for that wedding that's Saturday and this is Friday. The groom's in the hospital on the day of his wedding. And the bride and groom, they called up their venue, their planner, their florist, their caterer, everyone, and said, look, we're really sorry. My fiance broke his ankle. We have to postpone the wedding. Everyone was very sympathetic, but all of the vendors said, we understand. You've paid us in full because it's just the day before the wedding. But this is how we make our livelihood. This is how we make our money. It's too late to book someone else.
Right.
We were ready, willing, and able to go forward with your wedding. Our contract allows us to keep your full payment with no refunds and no credits for the future, and we're going to do that. And you know what? When the vendors did that, they weren't wrong.
They've saved that date for a long time.
They saved the date. Bride and groom had insurance. They got reimbursed in full, didn't lose a penny.
Wow.
Everyone was happy.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a really good story. Thinking of getting hit by a bike or getting in a bike. I've got in a bike accident on the way here. There's a bike lane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those bike lanes are dangerous.
Holy moly.
So that's the thing. Yep. Cancellation insurance protects you if you lose money that's related to your wedding.
Right.
And it has to be something that's outside of your control, not a pre-existing condition that you already know about, and something that's unexpected.
Right. Okay, so let me ask you this, because people always ask me this question a lot, and we obviously never filed a claim with this, but if the last minute they had to get a tent or do something due to weather?
That is a great question.
Okay, perfect.
And unfortunately, that would not be covered.
Okay.
That falls under the category of
not being smart and getting a Plan B tent.
Look, the insurance companies aren't dumb either.
Yeah.
There's a provision in the contract that bad planning is not an insurable event. If not having a rain plan, insurance is not your rain plan.
Okay. Yeah. No, makes sense. I mean, unless it's a hurricane and they
Correct.
have to evacuate, and
Correct, but
that's a whole other ballgame.
That's beyond their control. They couldn't control that.
Exactly. Okay, cool. What about deployments? If someone...
That is a common question,
okay.
and we do have a fair number of claims for that. The military deployment clause basically says if someone has a leave granted and it gets revoked. So they have to have a leave from their CO, their commanding officer, saying, on June 13th, okay, you're getting married, you can travel off base for your wedding. And it's, very appropriate for right now with what's going on in the Middle East and all of the troops that are getting called up. Mm-hmm. They're saying you need to go on standby. So any of those servicemen or women that have a wedding planned and have to postpone it, they don't cancel it, they're postponing it, that could be covered.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. Okay, so this is obviously another one that always gets asked. Let's just say you have a photographer and they lose the images or something happens to them. Is anything covered?
Covered.
For that? Okay.
There's a simple.
Okay.
Your
Perfect.
photographer shows up, takes a bunch of beautiful pictures, and
I mean, there's a rare moment that things like that can happen.
We've had it at a wedding when I was a wedding planner. Something, they put the disc in the camera and something was wrong with the disc and they lost all of those images. Right. So it does cover the cost of that, which, the bride and groom can then use to stage maybe a mock ceremony or something to get something.
To recreate it, yeah. No, that's
and that has happened.
For sure. What about, and I don't think this is such a big thing anymore, but like gifts, like cards. We've had an incident happen at our Florida location where they ended up looking at cameras and the staff from the hotel actually stole the card box with all the cards.
That's interesting.
You know what I mean? It's crazy, but
we've had a couple of those claims where people say the cards that they were given are lost. It needs to be a theft. The way you defined it is you went and you saw that the box was there and someone stole it. We had one person call us up and said, I invited a bunch of people and I didn't have as much money as I thought I was going to have in gifts, so therefore someone must have stolen it.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, no, maybe your friends weren't as generous as you thought they were going to be.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
So it does cover theft.
Okay.
The only exception to that is something called mysterious disappearances. It's if we were unwrapping all of our presents and we threw all the wrapping paper away and we think we threw some checks away with the wrapping paper.
Gotcha.
It needs to be more than that. Generally what people look at is if they file a police report, then you know it's stolen. If it's just, I don't know what happened to it, it's a tough one.
Yeah, no, totally. Okay, cool. Very cool. So is there any couples you've had recently that would have been obviously very grateful that they had eWed or they filed a claim that they were able to use you guys?
Got it. We have. Most couples that file a claim are very grateful because they get paid for their claim. We've had a couple of them. Another one I tell quite often is a couple was having a wedding at a venue. Okay. And the venue had one of those electric gate controls that open and close the venue. And this wasn't an expensive wedding. It was a $10,000 wedding. Oh, wow. Not a big budget wedding, but $10,000 is $10,000. One of their guests on the way out knocked over the gate control with their car. Not the end of the world. It's not, no one broke a leg, no one died, no one went to the hospital. But the couple the next day got a call from the venue saying, one of your guests knocked over the gate control. We can repair it, no big deal, but it's $8,000 to repair it. Not unreasonable, but this couple spent $10,000 on their wedding and almost fainted when they got a bill from the venue for $8,000. Right. Luckily, they had insurance. The insurance paid the $8,000, and the couple was so grateful.
Oh, wow. So if something was to happen at the venue particularly?
Good. We switched from cancellation to liability insurance by doing that. But the liability insurance basically says if the couple is legally responsible for any damages or injuries, that's what the insurance covers. It protects the couple. Right. Most venue contracts make the couple responsible for any damage or injury they cause or their guests cause.
Correct. Yes.
So that's the big distinction. Where people get it right but don't always get it right is if the venue causes the injury, then it's not the couple's insurance. That would be on the venue. So it's got to be something that they did or that they were responsible for. Right. No, for sure. Okay.
So we've got cancellation insurance. So let's switch to liability insurance. I definitely think that is a huge thing, and everybody should have it, especially at any event with multiple people, alcohol, all the things. Correct. Anything can happen. So let's talk through liability insurance. Okay. Would you say you sell more of that versus
We sell
Cancellation?
we sell more liability than cancellation.
Okay.
And the main reason for that is venues require liability.
Correct.
So a lot of couples buy it, they check the box. They don't necessarily understand the benefits to them for buying it, but they said the venue is making me buy it, so I'm going to buy it.
Right.
But liability insurance, it protects the couple if they're sued or legally responsible for property damages or injuries.
Right.
The one with the gate control is a perfect example. We have slip and falls at weddings all the time. And if the couple did something that caused that slip and fall to happen, then they can be responsible for it.
Drink on the dance floor.
Yeah, a drop
broken
drink
glass.
is correct. Those are sometimes gray areas because
okay.
did the couple drop that drink? Were they responsible for
Oh.
it? There, it's the bartender or the server potentially doing it. An example I use is a couple wants to make a surprise entrance to their reception.
Okay.
So there's a hallway or a walkway leading to it, and they turn off all the lights. And one of the guests walking down that walkway trips and falls. 100% looks like it's on the couple's
Yeah, of course.
dime there. And the insurance would protect them and pay for an injury like that.
Right.
The flip side of that is they leave the lights on and a guest is walking down the walkway and there's a loose stone or a loose railing or a loose piece of carpeting and they trip and fall on that. Now that's going to be on the venue because the couple didn't do it.
Absolutely.
It wasn't the cost of it.
No, for sure. Yeah, liability, depending on the venue, like you said, a lot of them require it. That's interesting you say that about the venue because sometimes the venues, like we'll bring up things that happen or we've seen things. There's just a venue that has a brick that's like 6 inches higher than the others. I'm like, you guys got to get that fixed. Like,
it's a trip hazard.
Someone is going to fall. And it may be me, but I had a wedding, it's been at least 10 years ago. And this is prior to putting insurance into our policy and our planning packages. So we were at this venue. It was the end of the night. And I want to ask you if it had been the venue or the couple. So we had sparklers. It was the very end of the night. We put sparklers on a table. And so one little boy came by and they were like, oh, can we play with one? And I was like, sure. So I gave them one. They went outside and they lit it and whatever. Well, I never paid attention what they did with the rest of them or the one they had. Well, they came back and they put it in with the rest of them. So the thing got hot. So the whole thing exploded and it caught the chandelier on fire, the table, the rug, everything. So if the client would have had insurance, whose would that have been?
It's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
Well, the reason is you pick sparklers.
Oh, are those excluded?
Fireworks are excluded.
Okay.
Pyrotechnics are excluded.
Good to know.
With our insurance, this was one of the things in forming eWed.
Yeah.
Most policies are a blanket exclusion. I went back to our insurance company when I negotiated, and I said, people use sparklers all the time. And I was able to get the insurance company to say, as long as they're used outdoors and not indoors, then they're covered. So if they're used outdoors, fine. In your situation, if it wasn't sparklers but something that was covered under the policy, it would probably be covered because the venue contract makes the bride and groom liable or responsible for that damage.
Pay for all that out of pocket. It was expensive.
So but for the sparklers, that could be covered.
Right. Okay.
And we get damage. Damage to venues is probably our most common claim. That a guest does something wrong.
I had someone break a toilet one time. They had to replace. What?
It's funny you say that. We have more claims for broken items in bathrooms than anywhere else. What? And it's stall doors, it's cabinet doors. Haven't had the broken toilet. Just got one this morning.
Oh my God.
And I don't know what people do when they go to the bathroom at weddings.
Do they send you photos of these?
Yeah, and it's always a cabinet door laying on the ground, a bathroom stall door. Maybe people are having a fight and they go into the bathroom to argue and somebody gets violent, but it's funny you say that.
That's funny, yeah. I remember they sent me photos like, how did they break a toilet? Like, they have a sledgehammer?
Yeah, that's just...
Yeah, they had to pay like $1,200 to have a toilet replaced.
Yeah, you see interesting things broken all the time.
All right, so let's talk about what it doesn't cover.
Got it.
Cold feet?
Let's start with cancellation.
Okay, let's start with cancellation.
And I think it's what I said earlier. insurance company pays for any reason whatsoever, including made-up reasons.
Right.
So there is literally millions and millions of things that it could cover.
Right.
Because the policy, says if you have to cancel or postpone due to something beyond your control that is not a known condition that you don't already know about or a pre-existing condition. So then you look at what are the scenarios like that. The obvious ones are weather. Severe weather can, cause a wedding to be canceled. And I'll have someone who's getting married in a non-snow state during the winter and saying, why would I need cancellation insurance for that? I go, that's great, but bride and groom, you're coming from Boston to Southern California for your wedding. You can get snowed in Boston and not make it. So things like that. There's no defined list of what is covered or is not covered. It's more like just, if you think about it, if it's something that you don't know about and you could not have reasonably foreseen, then it could be covered. The other thing with cancellation insurance, what people ask is, well, is a deposit just for the wedding or how closely related? And it's, any money that you lay out for the wedding, and it does extend all the way to the honeymoon if you have to cancel that because your wedding was canceled.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Yeah. We had a wedding. We ended up getting power, but the venue lost power. So with something like that,
100%.
Right? Yeah. Out of your control. You didn't know the venue, the whole neighborhood wasn't going to have power that day,
Yeah. Something like that. You show up at the venue and you find out that their power is down, or the city or state or county or whatever power is down. That could absolutely be something that's covered.
Right.
But you think about it, you can show up and there could be a broken water main,
flood or whatever.
Or pick something that, not even at the venue, that you're getting married in the mountains and there's one road that leads up the mountain and there's a mudslide the night before and no one can get to the wedding.
Yep.
The venue's sitting there saying, hey, we were open. Not our fault. The road had a mudslide. That venue's like, we were here. We had all our waiters here. We had all the food here. You guys never showed up. The bride and groom are, well, we didn't show up because there was a mudslide.
Right.
An example of something that very well could be covered.
That's interesting you say that. It was a few years ago. I had a wedding on an island, but it was a road to the island, and there was a bad wreck, and they shut that road down for 2 or 3 hours. And we literally couldn't get to the church for the ceremony. It was crazy. Everything ended up pushing back, and it all worked out. But like you said, something like that, you might not be able to get to it for a day or two.
Right, and then it's, what do you do? And the nice thing is also with cancellation insurance, there's something called extra expense.
Okay.
So you can't get to the wedding, but you know what? You can turn around and go to the hotel right down the street and divert everyone there. And it's going to cost less of a loss if you divert everyone to this hotel. Insurance companies can pay for that under the extra expense.
Okay.
Or your caterer cancels on you, on Tuesday and the wedding's on Saturday. You scramble to find a new caterer, but they're 20% more for a rush fee. Insurance can also pay that 20% to save the day.
We should hire all of our vendors from our preferred vendors.
Right, of course. But you know what? Bad things happen to preferred vendors.
No, things happen. For sure. The wedding where the power went out, obviously with DHEC and everything, it was out for so long, they couldn't use anything that was in the fridge or freezer.
Right, everything's spoiled.
Yep. So they ended up having to go to the local grocery store to get everything last minute.
Right.
That was on the venue, but just things that out of your control that you don't know.
But the key is, I think, hire good, competent, professional vendors.
Of course.
Because if something goes wrong, what would you rather have? Your vendors pull off your wedding or make an insurance claim?
Right, exactly. No, for sure. No, I agree. When would you say in the planning process that they should get wedding insurance?
I get that call all the time.
Right.
For cancellation insurance, it's real simple. As soon as you start to put down deposits at your venue, which is normally your first big deposit, you have money at risk. If you put down a deposit on Tuesday at your venue and it burns down on Thursday, and you didn't buy insurance on Tuesday or Wednesday, you're going to be out of luck. Liability insurance can be purchased up to the day before the wedding with eWed.
Right. Okay.
We suggest most people buy it as early as possible. One, when you're planning a wedding, you've got a to-do list as long as your arm.
Right. Knock it out.
Check it off your to-do list. And the other thing we remind people is premiums on insurance can increase. If you wait 9 months to buy it and the cost of liability insurance goes up, you're now paying the increased premium.
That is true. Very true. Yeah, I mean, when they book with us, we immediately, after that first thing, we obviously get with you for the policy.
You guys go online. Everything is bought online. You buy it, and you know what? You check it off your to-do list, and your couples are covered.
Absolutely. Now, we don't get the policy till 1 year prior? Is that true?
Correct. Cancellation insurance can be issued up to 2 years out.
Okay.
Liability insurance can be issued up to 1 year out.
1 year out. Okay.
But to accommodate people buying both at the same time for weddings that are more than 1 year away, we allow them to buy both online.
Okay.
We hold the liability funds in a trust account until 1 year before the wedding, and then we automatically issue the liability insurance. And we still provide premium protection there. So if the premium goes up, eWed's going to pay the difference, not the couple.
Covered. Okay. Very cool. Okay, how would you say the pandemic affected wedding insurance? Did it help you? Because you started before that.
We started eWed before the pandemic hit. It was both a blessing and a curse. But we saw it. We ended up, just as people know now, COVID is not a cover. It's not a covered reason.
That is on the bottom of our
right. It's every insurance company in the world that I know of.
It's like in 3 different
excluded
letters.
COVID.
Yeah.
We saw an uptick in insurance in early February. And if you remember, I think it was March.
Middle of March.
Middle of March is when the CDC locked the country down. We saw an uptick in February, so people were figuring out what was going on. We ended up excluding COVID on February 24th.
Oh, you were ahead of the game.
That was a call from the insurance company saying, there's this thing out there called COVID. We're seeing a big uptick in people buying cancellation insurance. And you know what? The people that bought ahead of COVID, they got paid in full. They had canceled their wedding. They did.
Wow. How many do you know? I mean, that was a lot.
We paid out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for that. So, but COVID was excluded. Yeah. So I think, the thing that COVID did for the event insurance industry more than anything is it put insurance on people's radar screen.
Of course.
The other thing it did, which is sort of an unintended consequence, is every planner, every venue, every photographer, every caterer looked at their contracts and they said, what does our force majeure provision say? Under what provisions do we have to hand back the deposit versus get to keep the deposit? And I see from a lot of venues, they put the financial risk on the client. It was on the venues and they shifted the financial risk to the bride and groom. And that just makes insurance all the more appropriate to buy because in the past, if the venue would have had to give you a refund per their contract if something went wrong, they no longer have to do that.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I can't imagine all the claims pre-pandemic or after.
There was a lot. Not enough. Obviously, we didn't go under from it. The insurance company survived, but I think we were smart about it, and they paid on the claims. The nice thing about weddings is people don't want to cancel their wedding. They'll bend over backwards to walk down the aisle on the appointed day.
Yeah, of course. They've spent all this time, money, energy, effort. Right. I mean, they want to do what they can to make it work.
Right. So, I mean, we really love our clients, and our clients are the venues and the planners and the couples because everyone's working together as a team to try to make the wedding happen.
Same results.
Right, exactly. And eWed is there when it just can't happen.
Right. No, absolutely. No, I love that line. So do you cover other things other than just weddings? So like rehearsal dinners or welcome parties or?
Sure. What we do, our wedding insurance, and this is from being a wedding planner, automatically covers the rehearsal dinner the day before, the farewell, the wedding ceremony and reception, and the farewell brunch. So we provide 3 days of coverage for that price because we understand people might have a rehearsal dinner at a restaurant, they might get married in a church, go to a banquet facility for the reception, and then have a brunch the next morning somewhere. So they're all covered for the same price. And then we also cover non-wedding events. So we'll cover anniversaries, quinceañeras, funerals, bar bat mitzvahs,
cover insurance for funerals?
Graduations.
I mean,
you know what? It's surprising. If you're holding a, what do they call it, a memorial service, just like venues require liability insurance, venues require
I guess so. Yeah.
If you're coming on their property, they want insurance. So we do a whole host of events that you can see online.
Right. I did learn, I think it was recently over this summer, we tried to get insurance, and it was a graduation party, 18-year-olds, but it was at their house, but they had a pool.
Yeah, there are certain, we just put up on our blog common exclusions from insurance.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
You look at it, our liability insurance is $119. It's a small premium.
Yeah.
It's not going to pay for things that are increased risk. Swimming pools, water activities, bonfires, overnight camping, not to mention, if you want to have skeet shooting at your wedding or something.
Right.
So if your wedding involves, exotic animals, the way to think about it is if it involves
I can't have a tiger at my wedding?
Yeah, I'm not going to be insurable. You can do it.
So if I'm missing my arm, you're not going to pay for it?
Yeah, if you call me up and ask me about the tiger, I'm going to encourage you not to buy insurance from us. So it covers what you would normally see at a party. Anytime you go outside of the box and you have, like I said, water activities, exotic animals, you can get insurance that will cover that. But you're not going to be able to buy it for $119. And it just...
Right. No, for sure.
It's more economical to say, you know what, do you really need that?
Right.
Because it will void, coverage for those items.
No, for sure. And I always say and tell all of our clients, couples, always hire vendors that are licensed and insured, So if something was to go down with everybody, at least everybody's insured, So.
It's very true. I mean, and people... A lot of the times they confuse licensed and insured. They're not the same.
They're not.
They pay
separate for those.
Right. A license means someone stamped a piece of paper for them.
Right.
It doesn't mean that if something goes wrong, they've got the financial wherewithal to pay for the damages or injuries.
Nope, I agree. There's so many different types of insurance out there. I now have professional liability insurance. So if anybody's listening that has a business, so if you are... any kind of lawsuit or anything comes against you, it actually covers all your attorney fees. So, which I think is super cool.
Look, eWed is, we sell event liability and cancellation insurance, but we have our own policy. We have a business owner's policy in case someone, comes onto our property and they slip and fall and hurt themselves. Mm-hmm. And we have a E&O, which is professional liability insurance. If I give someone bad advice, I could be responsible for that.
I love it. It's great. It's crazy the things that can happen. All right. So what would you say is like the craziest, funniest claim that anyone's ever tried to make? Do you know of one?
I will have to. Okay. So we had one where I don't want to make it identifiable to the client.
Yeah.
We had one where a bride was getting married on a tropical island.
Okay, cool.
And legitimately a hurricane came through the couple of days before her wedding and caused a fair amount of damage on the island. She called us up and said, because of the hurricane, I'm canceling my wedding. It 100% legit sounding claim. We say, okay, that's fine. She submitted the claim. What people have to understand is when you submit a claim, they don't just take your word for it.
They go do the research.
There's a claims adjuster that says, look, I believe everything you say, but you have to allow me the time to go verify it. So the first thing the claims adjuster did was they called the venue on this island.
Yeah, of course.
And the venue said, no, we were open. We were fine. And by the way, the bride and her fiance were fighting and they broke up. And that's why she's trying to cancel the wedding. But it got better.
Oh, gosh.
The claims adjuster asked the bride, well, your venue says they were open. Do you have pictures showing that they're not telling the truth, that they were flooded? She sent through a bunch of pictures of flooded streets. Great. She pulled the pictures from Google. It had nothing to do with the venue or anything around there.
So, I mean, isn't that called insurance fraud? I'm pretty sure.
I don't use that word.
Okay. Misled insurance.
It's called sorry, but we're going to be denying your claim.
Okay, got it.
Right. And people understand, eWed is an insurance agency, and we're an insurance broker. Our clients are the brides, the grooms, the venues, and we've got their back.
Of course.
The insurance company is the one who writes the policies, and they have insurance adjusters, and their job is to pay every single legitimate claim and to, unfortunately, deny the claims that are not
So
legitimate.
don't, yeah.
Luckily, knock wood,
Knock on wood.
we don't get a lot of dubious claims,
Okay.
and we pay out on the vast majority of them, no questions asked.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, they got to do their research and homework. And I mean, I'm sure like she could have maybe just even had the wedding,
Right. Oh, I did get that. I've got one other funny one.
Okay.
I got an email the other day from a person who wanted to make a claim.
Okay.
And she said, we're canceling the wedding. I'd like to make a claim. I have a $15,000 policy. Will you send me a check? I said, happy to, but can you tell me the reason you're filing a claim? And she writes me back. She goes, well, what are the covered reasons under the policy so I can decide which one to tell you?
What?
She wanted to know what was covered, and then she was going to make her story up to fit a covered reason.
God.
And that doesn't work.
Yeah.
But it's like, these are the funny stories to tell, but they're absolutely the exceptions to the rule. Activities that are excluded, golf carts are excluded. And
every one of our brides leaves in a dang golf cart.
Well, but you know what? If they're in a golf cart that's being driven by a professional, if it's being driven by the venue or a valet from the golf cart
someone
company,
non-intoxicated,
that's fine. The one we had is a venue, and they allowed their guests to use golf carts to drive other people around. A bunch of drunk groomsmen got in the cart towards the end of the wedding, were driving it, and they flipped it. Thank God none of them were hurt. Golf cart
totaled, I'm sure.
Was totaled. Yeah. And that was literally something that just came up this year with our insurance company. And they said, you know what? We're going to make it more clear in the policy that we're going to exclude injuries that are related to golf carts.
They're dangerous.
And it's like, but you see a lot of the venues we work at are rural venues where the parking lot is 200, 300, 400 yards away from the ceremony site. And grandma's coming, or an aunt or an uncle that's older. Venues that have a golf cart there and where somebody from the venue shuttles guests back and forth, that's fine.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
But don't let your guests drive the golf cart.
No. What else? You got something good for me? Anything else, David, about insurance?
Oh, I've got lots.
I know.
You know what?
Else
bottom line is, it's an interesting business. And, like doing weddings, one of the things I loved about doing weddings was seeing the couple's face when they first walked into the room. And, the candles were lit and the flowers, and it would bring tears to their eyes. Wedding insurance, when someone has a catastrophe happen and they find out that they're saved from it, it's really heartwarming.
Right.
And that's part of the reason I'm in the business. It's for the people that have something tragic go wrong on the day of their wedding or a day before, or a vendor goes out of business and they are in a panic and they don't know what to do.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. For sure. Because I've had several clients that didn't have insurance, prior to us including it. And I know they would have wished they would have had it, so.
Right. It's like when it's needed and it's there, it really does save the day.
Yeah, no, for sure. So some of your places, like venues, have it embedded with theirs?
Correct. So the trend these days for insurance, and this is both for planners and for venues, is if they're requiring it or highly recommending it, why make the couple do extra work?
Right.
The venue, the planner, you've already got the contacts, us, you've got access to our systems to go buy it, and you can buy it in bulk. We work with venues to do that. Buy it for the couple, build it in as part of your costs, or have it as a line item on the contract. And you know what? If something goes wrong, instead of getting a negative Google review because they're mad at the venue for making a claim,
it's our fault that something happened.
The venue or the planner gets a positive Google review saying this went wrong, and I would have been in deep trouble, but for my venue or my planner bought insurance on my behalf, and they saved the day for me.
Right. And it's such an easier sell. I mean, everybody needs a venue, everybody needs a DJ, all these things. They don't always have to have an event planner. So,
correct.
They always should though. But with us to offer it, like, it's an easier sell for us as event planners. You're like, oh wow, up to 50,000, like, okay. And they don't really know on the back end what it costs, and I kind of explain that to them. But it's an easier sell for us.
You're also making right, and you've got an easy sell. It's like, read our contract, read your venue's contract, read your DJ's contract. under what circumstances do you get the deposit back?
Right?
Not a lot.
Non-refundable.
Right. Would you like insurance to protect yourself?
Right? No, absolutely. And people, even sometimes if they just book like the month of, a lot of them add it. They want to add the insurance, whether it's the liability or the cancellation.
They're booking you for the month of, but they've been spending money on the wedding for 9, 10, 12 months before they booked you.
Right? No, for sure. For sure. Well, awesome. Well, it was so good having you.
So nice.
So awesome to be here in the city and be able to do this.
Welcome.
So I know, right? I know about the bike lanes now, so I'm going to look right then left, depending on which side.
Yes, you will get taken out by, one of the delivery guys flying down on it.
It wasn't your average bike. It was electric. It was going to leave a mark. So tell everybody where they can find you, how they can find you, website, email, if you want to give them that info.
Certainly. I'm David Berke. I'm the founder of eWed Insurance. You can reach us at ewedinsurance.com. That's EWED insurance.com. Or you can call us you can call me directly at 332-256-8359.
And he's really good at always getting back with emails and phone calls. He's been awesome to have in our back pocket for such a big day, and to have, the insurance for people they feel more secure even about booking vendors,
Sara, the difference is you get it. You get the value of insurance.
You don't have to sell me. I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you for listening to This Takes the Cake, and thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure.